Welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, Ryan Estes sits down with two of State Press's lead reporters to discuss how they've covered ASU this semester.
Myah France also interviews Daniel Gayton about how ASU students can utilize their skills in interviews to maximize their chances of winning a scholarship.
I'm Myah France.
I'm Janusee, and this is State Press Play.
Here with lead reporter Grace Lawrence and lead reporter Lexi Janusee for Community and Culture and The Echo. So starting off with Lexi, can you tell me a little bit about your desk and what you typically write?
I think that a lot of people don't know what The Echo is. And when I was filling out my application, I didn't know what The Echo was either, but it's very much like arts culture that doesn't fall into the culture desk. And we cover a lot of music. I go to a lot of local shows, music festivals, and I try to write about things that are happening but go beneath the surface and kind of talk about why trends are popular right now or why everyone's talking about looks maxing or things like that.
And then same question to you, Grace. What do you typically write? What is your desk?
Well, I'm on the community and culture desk, so we cover everything community and culture, hence the name. But there's just so many different types of communities and different students of different backgrounds on campus, so we try to make sure to cover different cultural events and different traditional festivals and just elevate those voices on campus.
And then with you specifically working with community and culture, what is one way that you have been a part of a culture or a community that you weren't expecting, that you maybe wouldn't have if you weren't at the State Press?
I will say the State Press has opened my eyes to a lot of different groups and minorities and people of all different backgrounds that can attend a university and things like that. What I've learned the most is just to research about different cultures before I go in to report on them. I've learned about different traditional garments, traditional food, traditional holidays, to prepare myself when talking to these students on campus to help them feel more comfortable when talking to me.
And then Lexi, with you specifically working more with arts and the more creative part of ASU, is there something that you have found through reporting that you might not have seen otherwise and that you have kept up with?
I feel like I've always been kind of a more artsy person, as cringe as that is. And I was also a huge theater kid in high school, so my beat has really been theater this year, but something that I found that I didn't know before was film. I've never really experimented with film before, so it's been really cool to get to know some student filmmakers, directors, actors, and also I'm going to a film festival this weekend, so I'm really excited about that.
And for you, Grace, what has been your favorite event you have attended or article that you've written this semester?
Ooh, that's a good question. Where do I start? I've had the opportunity to cover so many different cultural festivals. I would say probably my favorite one reporting on was the Holy Festival out here in Tempe on this the Sun Devil Fitness complex fields, where they just threw color at me when I was trying to interview students. It was definitely something I wasn't expecting. And I researched into it beforehand, but I definitely didn't expect to be in the action and being with all of the students while they were throwing color at me. But it was just a really cool experience just to feel like I was actually part of the event instead of just there covering it.
And Lexi, I feel like looking back through some of your articles over the last semester and the one before, you do a little bit more of an array. You do more opinions or satires or just go deeper into things like that. How do you come up with these ideas? What sparks your inspiration to write about Sparky or Looks Maxing or First Friday or any of that?
I think that I take a lot of inspiration from the communities that I am embedded in. So obviously I write a lot about theater because I love theater. I write a lot about live music because I love music. But some random ones, like the Sparky satire, I don't know if they know what we're talking about. The Sparky satire, go check it out. That just came to me because I was scrolling on Instagram. So that's my secret reporter hack, is I am very active on Instagram and different social medias, specifically following clubs at ASU so I can get story ideas, and I listen to my peers and what they're talking about.
Is there anything specific that has stood out to you in your time at State Press?
I think the thing that stuck out most to me is just that there's so many stories to tell. ASU is huge. We are literally the biggest university. And every time I think that I've found every story there's something else, you know, there's always something that's happening, and there's just a lot of like little niche like things around ASU, so I'm very excited to keep learning more.
And both of you are freshmen. This is your first year at ASU. Grace, how has being a freshman, do you think, changed the way that you go through state press, or similarly, how has state press changed the way that you go through ASU?
Ooh, okay. I think state press has already made a huge impact on my life. I mean, Lexi and I have become best friends because of it, just because we've gotten the opportunity to work together and be in the newsroom on late nights and just hang out with each other every Sunday for pitch meetings and just all the things like that. We've grown closer in friendship, and I'm really glad that you're my friends. And then for academic-wise, it's definitely taught me to be more driven, because it's taught me how to be a go-getter in a sense. Like, if I can do this story, I can absolutely do this long English paper that I don't want to do. Or if I have to do this like written project for another class, or speak a different language in a different class, I can do it because I have state press as like my, like, well, if I can do this, I already did this in state press, and like have that be my threshold. And it's already put me, already had me gain a bunch of experience through all my other classes, like my journalism-based classes, and I feel like I'm pretty ahead in those because I've gotten the opportunity to meet amazing people on staff and have them guide me like my professors do.
And if there was somebody who was wanting to apply to state press or just be a journalist in general, do you have any advice that you would give somebody who wants to be in a position similar to yours?
That for me, state press has become a second home, but it is a lot of work. And I think as much as it's taught me to do a lot of good things in my life, it's also taught me it's also been a big stressor in my life, which is what family's supposed to do. Like, there's good and bad parts about family. But I think as long as you're driven and as long as you're committed and as long as you're passionate about the things you do, don't be afraid to reach out to an editor or like another reporter or a photographer or someone even on a different desk than you for help or like reassurance that you feel overwhelmed. And I think I would just tell people that, like, don't be afraid to reach out when you feel stressed about balancing all of the different parts of college and then working for a student or media organization, because that is not easy to do.
Yeah, and Lexi, how do you maintain that balance?
It's a lot. State press is a lot, but I say that in a very loving way because, I mean, I have a crazy good portfolio. I work with some amazing people, and I've got like these opportunities that I would not get otherwise. I mean, I got to go to M3F Music Festival, which was just incredible. Like, I've gotten to do so many things, and it's just really important to find a balance because you can't prioritize state press over, you know, your schoolwork. Or it's the same for any like student club. I feel like, but yeah, it definitely comes in handy, as Grace was saying, with classes, because every time we're learning about like writing articles in class, I'm like, been there, done that, you know? So it's a trade-off, but to me, it's really worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and would you have any advice for somebody who was looking into a position like yours?
I guess my position is a little bit unique because Echo's like a little bit unique. I would say that I was scared to apply because I thought that there was no place for somebody like me who wants to write about like theater. You know, I thought nobody would care about that. So I guess my advice would be, if you want to become a journalist, you have to take your expertise and apply it to everything else, because everyone has a unique perspective, and when you kind of work with your specific skill set, it's a lot more personal and your stories are more powerful.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and check back later on State Press Play.
To read any of the stories mentioned in this episode, check out statepress.com.
In addition, Myah France talked to Daniel Gayton about how students can maximize scholarship opportunities on campus.
Welcome back to State Press Play. My name is Myah France. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I'm Daniel Gayton. I am the Director of Student Engagement at the ASU Alumni Association, and I help oversee student engagement efforts, which includes oversight of a couple of scholarship programs, as well as the Student Alumni Association.
All right, and I just wanted to know if there's any like little bits of advice that you would have for students that are looking into scholarships and maybe a little bit anxious about it and overthinking things. So what's some advice you have for like applications?
Sure. So ASU uses the software Scholarship Universe, And what's interesting about Scholarship Universe is that it connects you to scholarships and what you're eligible for. So what I always recommend for students is go onto the portal and just start answering all the questions that get asked to you. Some of them are really straightforward, like what year are you in school, what are you studying, those kinds of things. But there are hundreds of questions on there, and your answers to those questions will match you to scholarships in which you can actually apply for. So the more questions you answer, the more likely you are to be matched with a scholarship. Once you have your list of scholarships, really kind of look into who is administering them, because that's the person that's really going to be the decision maker for it. And so for our scholarship specifically, is we always ask like very specific questions for it. And so if you were to reach out to me and say, hey, what are you looking for? I can give you that information, right? So contact the administrator for that. And then when you're writing scholarship applications, like we usually give ours about 500 words. Like 500 words is kind of a lot, like, and most of our students are writing 45, 50 words. So the more information you can give me, the better I can base a decision off of.
All right, and what's some advice you have for like when they pass that application point and then they get to the interviews?
Yeah, so if you got to keep in mind that a lot of our scholarships get hundreds of applications. So if you make it to that interview stage, like you're already in the clear, like for that part. So just be patient, and then that's your time actually to shine and like show who you are. So for our scholarship specifically, is we're looking for really our fit in our program, but also we want to see who you are as a person. I don't need 40 people that are all the exact same. Like we're looking for groups of students that are all qualified, which you are. You've already met the application requirements, but we also want to see how you fit in with other people. Like you're around the students in our program for 4 years. We want you all to get along. So we were looking for fit. We don't need a ton of really type A people. We need a match of all kinds of students. So,
What's something that you see that stands out a lot?
yeah, so what really stands out to me is the connection to ASU. So we have the two scholarships that I really oversee are the Medallion Scholarship Program, which is for students from the state of Arizona who have received the Dean's level of the New American University Scholarship. And the other one is the Legacy Scholarship Program. So those are all students with some sort of familial tie to ASU. And so for the one with the Legacy, I want to know why you're passionate about ASU. Like, I know, yes, your mom, dad, aunt, uncle went to ASU. That's great. Tell me what they did to make you so excited to be here.
And what is something you personally really enjoy about being able to do this kind of thing?
I like awarding scholarships and getting to meet our students. So obviously when somebody applies, they have no expectation of really getting it. Like there's always that hope, but students get really excited when they get awarded that scholarship, and that's really cool. And to be able to give that to them and help them financially, it helps relieve some stress for them, and we get to celebrate them, and then we get to turn around and tell their story. So like we have a student coming up who's been has been around the university since they were 4 years old. So like I'm excited to talk to that student and see how their perspective has changed, for the past 15, 20 years almost.
What would you say some extracurriculars that kind of stand out but also help the student be able to get to that college point?
Yeah, a lot of our students are involved with like National Honor Society, student government, any kind of sports that you kind of play in high school. Is that you learn a lot of that, and you work how to work as a team, obviously, the discipline side of things, and ultimately you learn a lot of balance. So the more you are involved in high school, the more likely you are to be able to balance all the responsibilities you have in college, especially when you're probably by yourself. You don't have mom and dad cooking dinner for you and putting you on your tight schedule. It's up to you. So we want to see those students that have experience of balancing and managing events and just kind of keeping themselves together.
And that's all for this week's State Press Play. I'm Myah France.
And I'm Jenna Cuff. State Press Play is produced by our audio podcast editor, Audrey Lipper, and video podcast editor, Trent Ashdown. Our original music is by Ellie Willard and Jake LaRue.
And a special thanks to our multimedia editors.
You can check out all these stories and more on statepress.com. See you next week.